Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have the jazz bass neck back on the bench. We are going to install the last few frets. I've done them all. It's a tedious, long job, so I'm only going to film a couple of them, showing them, tapping them in. I'm going to mute the microphone when we do that because it's literally hammering in frets. Let's get to work. So you can see all the other frets have been installed. Now, the tangs are hanging over. We still have to trim them, and we're going to show that here in a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is you take the fret and you very carefully try to split the difference so you got the same amount hanging out either side. You get it started in the slot. Get it started, hopefully. I'm going to mute the microphone because it's kind of unsettling. So you can see it's a pretty dramatic process. You're beating on you want to make sure that you got wood on wood so you're not damaging the back of your neck. So now the process is, and just to explain, as I'm putting them in, I'm going along with the 4,000s and I'm just checking to make sure that they're flush and are following the radius correctly all the way across the board, and you should be good. Once they get seated in there, they're not going to want to come out for long. Now, see, there's one right there. Another one. Okay. So now we go to snipping them off. You want to snip them pretty close. check and make sure it didn't pop out. And I'm not going to show you all of this because it's going to take a while. Cut them nice and close. Nice and clean. Now we're going to go back and check and make sure that they're all seated. Alright, so stand by while I cut these off, and then we're going to get out the angle tool to sand the edges of them. And then we go to taping off the board and leveling all the frets. That's going to be the last thing that we do. So stand by. So very nice. We got all of the tangs popped off. You cut them off flush. Inspect your work. Now, of course, they're sharp as sharp can be, but it's starting to look like a bass guitar neck again. The next phase of this operation is filing the fret ends. Now this is just a rough file. There's a way, we got to later on, we're going to have to finish them. But the first thing we do degrees, and then there's a 45. Put a bevel on it that way, and these are pretty tough frets, so it's not just going to be an easy peasy. Eventually you'll start to get a kind of a 45-degree bevel on her. Again, I am not going to continue to show that entire process because it does take a little while, but this is a special tool. You have a 90-degree and a 45-degree. So first you take all the tangs off with the 90-degree, and then you start working that bevel that we all know and love. And then later you take a finishing file and work them individually, because there will still be some sharp fret ends. So stand by. So I only did one side, and I'm going to show you. You don't need to tape it to use this so much, although you should, especially when you're doing the 90-degree one, because you can get into the side of the neck. Just be mindful of that. But I wanted, for today's exercise, I wanted to show you the little finishing file that I use. And this, you really do want to have some tape on it when you're using the finishing file. It says it's got a safe edge on it, so it won't hit the wood, but I don't trust it. Anytime you're using a file next to the wood, you got to be careful. So, same exercise as, you know, if when we get to the fret leveling, we're going to take off all the wood. But for today's exercise, I wanted to show you the little file, and it does have a safe edge on it, so that's the one you want to keep on the tape. It's kind of rounded off right there, and the other side actually cuts. And this I use to take the tangs off from the big sander. And you'll feel it ever so slightly. Until you get it nice and it doesn't really catch. This is a long, tedious process. Once you get the 45-degree angle cut on the edge of the frets, you're going to sit there for hours and hours and hours, and you're going to learn to hate doing refrets. That's why they cost so much. because it's long, tedious work. Okay, so I'm going to continue sanding just the edges and getting them pre-angled, and then we're going to tape everything up, and we're going to go to fret leveling. And you've seen that exercise before, but that's basically the next step. And then once we get all the frets polished up and ready to go, we're going to get it ready to accept its body and move forward. Yeah. I hope you guys were digging on this. It's a short video today, but I wanted to show you a couple of specialty tools and show you actually the process of hammering in the frets. It's it's unsettling. You have to beat them in there, and you have to make sure that your neck is on something solid but soft enough that it won't damage the wood. Get them all tapped in there. You use a feeler gauge. You know, on a refret, you're gonna catch some. Some are gonna. It's gonna get under there, but this one's totally acceptable, and they'll seat in there after a couple of weeks of playing and having tension, and the strings playing on them. They'll stay in there forever. It'll be a chore to get them out next time, just like it was this time. It's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. If you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. We're got a little ways to go still on this jazz-based neck, but thanks for coming along. We'll talk soon.